Welcome back, YouTube. My name is Nigel MrSchroeter, aka the Credit Sensei, aka Mr. Don't Sleep on the Money. But today I am here to talk to you guys about credit, and we're going to be talking specifically about Navy Federal Credit Union, and we're going to be talking specifically about a reason that they will close your account out. Okay, so as you all may know, Navy Federal Credit Union is a military credit union. It's a credit union that is open to all active duty, military, veterans, Department of Defense contractors, relatives of military personnel, etc., etc. Now, there has been a backdoor method that has been open for a long time that people have been using to get into Navy Federal. I've talked to you guys about it before, and I've recommended against it, but I'm specifically and explicitly making this video about this method because I don't want you to get your account closed, all right? So I always tell you all, do not go and open up an account with Navy Federal and then share your access number with anyone or have anyone join off of your access number who is not eligible to be a member of Navy Federal. Do not go in and find someone who is eligible to be a member and try to bring them in under you if they will not be eligible based off of you either. Okay, so what I've seen here recently is Navy Federal has been cracking down because there's so many scammers. There's so many people who've been getting into Navy Federal who should not be in Navy Federal because they hear about the great benefits that we get from our credit union, the high limit credit cards, the loans, the instant deposit for checks, and all these different features. And we're starting to lose out on features, as well as we're starting to see people's accounts get closed from good people who are just trying to be helpful and allow someone else an opportunity. So I always recommend against sharing your access number with anyone other than a child or a direct relative, sibling or a parent, because what can end up actually happening is when you share your code with someone else, you'll share that code and that person will try to join Navy Federal, and one of two things can happen. Either they can get in and they can do something shady, and when they get in, they do something shady, especially if you have a series of people who get in under your access number and they do something shady, whether that be get credit cards and run up the limits and don't pay them back, rather that be joining the credit union and cashing a bunch of bad checks or whatever it may be, right? They get in, that will reflect that you are the person who sponsored that person in. So you don't want to sponsor in people who can cause trouble for the credit union. Another thing with that is if you sponsor too many people in, right? If you keep saying, oh, well, these people are my siblings or these people are my children or whatever, and you're sponsoring a bunch of people in, especially if the names do not match, it just raises a red flag instantly. So they can pretty much tell, hey, this person is sharing out their access code with a bunch of people who are not eligible, and then they're going to start cracking down on you, and they're not as much going to crack down on those people. But most importantly, what Navy Federal has started doing is they'll give them an approval to where everything looks good, and then boom, they freeze the account, right? So when they freeze the account, what ends up happening is Navy Federal freezes the account, and they freeze it pending documents that prove whatever you stated. So if you state that they're a roommate, they're going to want to see that either their license matches your address, or they're on a lease with you or on a mortgage with you, or that person, you have the same car insurance. They're going to want to see some type of documents that put you and that person together at that address. They're going to want to see documentation, whether it be utility bills or whatever, and you're going to have to provide that information. Well, that information will initially only lock that account that they try to open. Well, here's what happens. If too many of those accounts get locked up that way, then Navy Federal is going to come to you and they're going to say, well, hey, we're now freezing your account, and they're not going to tell you this before they freeze it, but we're now freezing your account, and your account is stuck with whatever funds or anything else is in it until you can prove to us how this person should have been eligible based off of you, because you've given them your access number to get in. So now your funds are frozen, your credit cards are frozen, you don't have access to your Navy Federal account, and after a certain period of time of you not using the account and everything being frozen, they'll ultimately just close your account out. And when they do so, if you have any debt that's due, because they're a credit union, they'll take that money that was frozen in your account and they'll put it towards your debt, and then they'll just send you the rest of your debt and that you owe to them, and say, hey, too bad, so sad, you shouldn't have been giving your access code out to people who were not eligible to join. So once again, it's extremely important that you make sure you only give your access code out to people who are eligible to join, and that you don't just share your code out with anyone. Navy Federal does go through and audit sometimes randomly to see. You don't want to be changing your address around. I've seen some people say, oh, well, just change your address to that person's address. Well, here's what happens. If you keep changing your address over and over again, every time you go to sponsor somebody, the bank can see those patterns. All those patterns pop up in the system. So it'll be like, oh, sponsored someone. Oh, address changed on account. And if they see that a few times going back to back, it's going to start to look suspicious. It's going to start to look fishy. So all in all, just please make sure that you're not sponsoring anyone into the credit union that is not otherwise eligible, because you can ultimately cause yourself harm on the back end and ultimately get your accounts closed, and it will negatively impact you more than it will impact that person who didn't have an account to begin with. Go ahead and just recommend them to some other banks or credit unions that offer good funding, and make sure that you safeguard yourself as well as the rest of us as Navy Federal members. As always, thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share these videos out with someone else if you feel that that person will benefit from them. As always, we love you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.